Good morning, ladies and gents. Today is day 18 of the 31-day to becoming a better man challenge. And today's topic is a deep one. Today's topic is fear, right? And, I am prior military, right? So, by the way, my name is Diego Rodriguez, by the way, in case you guys, we haven't met yet. And I am an author, multifamily investor, and United States Marine. And the reason I wanted to bring that up specifically on the military side is because a lot of us, that we're in the military, we have, to differing degrees, we have, PTSD, meaning like post-traumatic stress. But that's just not applicable to people in the military. Believe it or not, some of us that may have like traumatic, childhoods, whether it be, something that happened to us out in the street or through family, or, if you know Joel Gondara, again, he's the author and the coach of the 31-day challenge to becoming a better man. And, if you read his story in the book, from the very beginning, just trying to get to this country was a crazy traumatic event, to say the least. So I don't want to take his thunder away and ruin his story, but it was a tough one. Like him and his family, him had like just a baby trying to get to this country. So, but I say that to say, guys, like sometimes, like for me, I grew up in New York, and of course, we go through life. I grew up in low-income housing, so of course we go through so many different, traumatic events. Whether it be, tragedy, shootings, police, abuse, fights, all this stuff. And when we're growing up, we don't really have access to therapy and psychologists and stuff like that. So all we do, is like they tell you, toughen up, man up. And all that stuff kind of like those traumatic events keep accumulating over time. And we unfortunately grow up in the habit of just sweeping that stuff under the carpet and just keep going through life, right? So all that stuff keeps accumulating and it manifests itself in different ways. So one of the ways, like for Joel, for example, one of his fears was like being in deep water, like being in the water where you can't put your feet on the ground and then being, the water being above your head, right? So for some of us, like, if you can swim and you can tread water and all that, it may seem like something, illogical, right? To why be afraid of water? But everybody has their own story, right? Kind of like we're all our own heroes in our story. So unfortunately, we either become masters of our own story by facing our fears, or we become like, how they say, those tragic heroes because we were, we didn't take the time out to face our fears, right? So, today's task is all about, trying to face our fears. And it's not like, going all in. Let's say like if you have a fear of heights, like going skydiving or going in, which, it will help facing your fears like head on. But, you can also do it in baby steps. Take small steps. Little by little, we start like, chopping away at that fear, chopping away. And before you know it, we start laughing at what we used to be afraid of. But the first thing is we got to confront it. First thing we got to do is be aware of what it is that we're afraid of and what's triggering that. And for me, for a long time, what was kind of like, being around people, like, and especially when people get close to me, I start getting anxious, and it's like my guard gets up. But I realized with time that it had to do a lot with my childhood, like being in fights, like growing up, I was a single child. Like it was just me and my mom. Like I do have a bunch of like sisters, like half sisters, right, on my dad's side. But for me, I'm just me and my mom, and, my mother raised me, right? So for a long time, like she used to go to work and I used to, have to go through life, like going to school, come back home, and then I'd be out on my own and then running around in the streets and stuff, and been in my share of fights. Got, and it's always, unfortunately, it used to be like, if you were by yourself, it'd be a bunch of kids trying to jump one kid because, whether it be, I don't know, whether you had nice clothes on or they just didn't like you because you weren't like the same as everybody else, you were just a little bit different, or you weren't like, doing bad stuff with the bad kids, you were trying to live straight and narrow and stuff like that. But for whatever reason, right? But what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is, we gotta face our fears, and we gotta first be able to realize what it is that we're afraid of. So that post-traumatic stress is real. So it's not just a military thing. It could also be, traumatic events that you went through in childhood. So, of course, the best advice would be, seek therapy or seek like a psychologist to kind of help you navigate through facing those fears. Because, sometimes it doesn't make sense to the brain. It's not kind of, it's not logical the way they make the connection. Like, let's say, for me, for example, like you went through, a traumatic event in your childhood, and then now years later, I'm a grown adult, and something is like also public speaking was another like big fear factor for me, right? Because like I felt the kind of the pressure of all the eyes on me, right? And all of a sudden my adrenaline kicks in, right? So I didn't realize like a lot of that had to do with, with a lot of, traumatic events from my childhood, and the pressure and the abuse and getting into fights and stuff like that. So automatically the mind gets into that fight or flight, right? And then public speaking was also another thing where it manifested on me. So with time, luckily I was able to face that. And now, like, for example, last night we had a meetup event, and of course I'm speaking in front of a bunch of people, and I still get that adrenaline rush. But now I realize I learned how to kind of surf with it. I use it to my advantage, that now I don't let it kind of become a fear thing. Now I use it to my advantage. That adrenaline rush kind of empowers me. It gives me the power, and I use it, and I kind of, like, how some people like either talk real high pitch voice, when they get nervous, or they talk real fast, right? So to me, I use that to my advantage to kind of pump me up and motivate me, that adrenaline, to let me deliver and show my enthusiasm, right? And let it kind of flow through me, right? And I let it use like to pump me up, and my enthusiasm kind of radiates and it brings the whole crowd up too, right? So it's a great tool to use in public speaking. But I say that to say, guys, again, we're the heroes of our story. And if we are going to become masters of our lives and our story, we got to face our fears. So whether it be a little bit at a time, or you go all in, and if you got fear of heights, you go skydiving, or if you're afraid of water, you go scuba diving, right? Things like that. But I say that to say we can all do that a little bit at a time, all right? So that being said, guys, again, end of the day, trust your gut, follow your heart, bet on yourself, and double down. This is Diego Rodriguez signing out. Peace. And if you're interested in the challenge, guys, I'll put the link below. Because another great thing about this challenge is that you're not doing it alone, right? You're also going to be in a group going through it with you. And of course, you got an accountability partner to hold each other accountable, to make sure you're knocking these things out day by day, all right? So again, I'll put the link below, guys. Be safe, be strong, and we'll see you tomorrow.